Mother-in-law mocked my autistic son at her fancy party, so I made a toast that left everyone speechless. I, female 35, was married to my ex-husband for 7 years before we mutually decided to end the relationship. Our son, Mark, is autistic, but we never held back in expressing our love for him. We decided that he would be better in my care, and so he moved out of the house. As a school teacher, I had immense love for my students and always wanted to help other kids like Mark, so I volunteered my spare time at the local orphanage. Even Mark would accompany me most times, and he was pretty close to everyone there. It was also where I met my husband. When I first saw him in his expensive suit and slick back hair, I thought he was an arrogant snob. But it turned out to be wrong, and he was one of the most genuine, down-to-earth people I had ever met. We fell in love soon, and what made me realize that he was the one was the fact that he adored Mark like his own son and held no prejudice against him. Mark got comfortable with him really fast, which made my heart swell since it always took him time to open up to other people. We were happy in our relationship, and he even took me to meet his family. He warned me that his mom would be cold, and so I went to his house, keeping that in mind. His mom's aura intimidated me. Although she appeared pleased to meet me, there was a certain threatening undertone in her words towards me. She was quick to drop her fake sweetness when she learned that I wasn't crazy rich and that I was divorced with an autistic child. Before I could even defend myself, she asked me to break up with him since I didn't suit his social status. I had expected the meeting to be a failure, but I wasn't expecting such hate. He was upset and drove me home. On the way, he apologized and begged me to not leave him. Safe to say, I listened to him. We got married later, and mother-in-law was so upset to the point where she refused to attend the wedding. My son, however, was super excited about the function and was even the ring bearer. Everything was going good until mother-in-law invited us to a party to welcome me to the family. My husband was skeptical, but I convinced him and went there. It wasn't the kind of party I was expecting, though. Her house was full of rich, high-end people, and not once did I spot a normal person there. I was really uncomfortable being there, but my husband seemed fine since he was used to such events. When mother-in-law noticed us, she put on a fake smile and congratulated us on our marriage and took us around introducing me to people like she was happy about our relationship. When the number of guests increased, the hate she garnered for me increased, and she went around telling everyone that my son was disabled and that it was embarrassing to be seen with him in public. It got brutal to the point where she even told them that my husband married me as an act of charity for my child. I was beyond livid at this point, and before she could go around insulting me and my son further, I gathered everyone's attention and declared that I wanted to make a toast. Mother-in-law was not expecting that and was amused at the prospect of me making a fool out of myself in front of all those people. Oh boy, was she wrong. I began by introducing myself as the host's mother-in-law and raised a toast to my mother-in-law for being a judgmental, inhumane fool. Before I could fully take in my mother-in-law's surprised expression and the guest's shock, I went on to say how my beloved mother-in-law threatened me to abandon my child at an orphanage or sent him to a facility in order for me to get permission from her to marry her son. Everyone at the party looked shocked, and my husband was grinning. Instead of running away from her, we decided to stay late and face mother-in-law strongly. The rest of the night was awkward since mother-in-law had to try extra hard to not let her anger and irritation show on her face. But the guests enjoyed my toast. I mean, who wouldn't say no to drama, right? After everyone left, mother-in-law came to talk to us. She let us know that she was very disappointed in my performance, and before she went further with the blaming, my husband jumped in and said that there was nothing more to be discussed and that she got what she deserved. We left without waiting for her response. I was shaking from all the anger when I got into the car, but felt instantly better when I realized that I stood up to her for the first time. Though, I'm confused about how I'm supposed to feel about all this. Am I the a-hole for pulling that stunt and humiliating her in front of the guests? I could really use your opinions. Update 1. It's been a few weeks since the party. The drama that took place at the party spread like wildfire. Needless to say, the gossip and rumors about it were not helping mother-in-law's reputation at all. It was like her social status was crumbling down. Some of our extended family reached out to me and wanted to congratulate me for standing up to her. Looks like I wasn't the only one on her hate list. Mother-in-law texted me one day asking me to meet alone. I agreed and met at a small restaurant, which was obviously not mother-in-law's taste, seeing how she was struggling to fit in that atmosphere. She cut straight to the point and asked me to divorce her son since I was dragging his name and mother-in-law's name through the mud. She even offered me money in exchange for divorcing my husband. That felt like a real cliché scene from a drama series, but a lot more serious. I declined and stated that I love him and would do anything to be by his side. She seemed to expect my answer but threatened me that going against her won't be pretty. It gave me chills, but I stood my ground and left the restaurant. I went home and shared the details to my husband, who reassured me that she wouldn't do anything harsh and to not worry. I still feel a little uneasy about this. It's not every day you are offered money to let go of the love of your life. Update 2, thank you for the sweet comments. Here's an update. A few days after meeting with my mother-in-law, I went to school, and since Mark had no class that day, I asked his babysitter to take care of him. That afternoon, his babysitter called me, crying, saying Mark was missing. I rushed home and saw her crying and told me that she was with him the whole time, but when she went to the kitchen for a minute and came back, Mark was not there. I was full-on panicking by then. My husband reached home soon after and calmed me down. I could tell that he was extremely scared too. We searched everywhere but couldn't find him. We soon went to the police and filed a missing person report. They promised to let us know if they found anything. 3 days went by without any trace of Mark and we were devastated. On the 4th day, one of the cops called us and said that they received a report about a boy with autistic spectrum being left at an orphanage in the next state. We could finally breathe after that call and rushed with them to that orphanage. When we arrived, the owner of the orphanage told us that he was left there at night by someone. I felt so bad for our son and I rushed in to see him. Thankfully he was fine and was sitting near the fireplace. The police were kinda hesitant to move forward with the case and find the kidnapper. When we raised the idea that it might be mother-in-law, they said they wanted proof before they took her into custody. Fortunately, one of the officers supported us and helped us. We got hold of the video where my husband accidentally captured mother-in-law asking me to send Mark to an orphanage before our wedding. That proved her motive to the cops and they continued the procedure and found CCTV footage of mother-in-law dropping Mark off at the orphanage. The cops went to her house to arrest mother-in-law for kidnapping. She denied the charges for as long as she could, but when they showed her proof, she went silent. Even when she was handcuffed and moved into the police car, she was looking at me with contempt. We were finally relieved to have Mark with us safe and sound. Update 3, some of you guys have asked me to visit my mother-in-law in prison and give her a chance. My relationship with her was broken from the beginning. There is no way anyone can fix that. Even though I had the urge to visit her and make things right, my husband sat me down and convinced me how risky that was for Mark, so I changed my mind. We are now happy and safe. My husband's sisters would often visit me and contact me to apologize for their mom's psycho behavior and to play with Mark. We decided to cut mother-in-law off from our lives for good. My wife, 41 female, of 4 years, and I, 45 male, have a blended family. She and I both have a daughter from a previous marriage. Her daughter is 8 and my daughter is 7. I was raised by a dad who made a good salary but blew every dollar he earned. As a result, I have always lived frugally and hate conspicuous consumption with a passion. Now my wife and I are economically stable. She is a travel nurse and I own a contracting business. We have agreed that we would not raise our kids to be indulgent spenders. However, a caveat is that my wife and my stepdaughter are attached at the hip. She calls her the love of her life and her muse, as well as her fashion twin. My wife has recently started her own nursing agency, and between that and her summer contract, she is making more than me for the first time. Despite her often arranging for my stepdaughter to travel with her during the summer or visit her office, she also feels a lot of mom guilt. Therefore, she is very susceptible to the dreaded puppy dog eyes. The puppy dog eyes convinced her to fork out money for membership to a mini golf place that my stepdaughter got bored of after 2 visits. And it worked today at the mall. We first went to get the kids new backpacks and then went across the mall to Bloomingdale's because my wife was getting interviewed by a local paper and needed something to wear. When we were there, we kind of split up because my stepdaughter squealed twins and went to help her mom pick out clothes. I found a place to sit down with my daughter because I needed to answer a few emails. I come back to earth because my wife and stepdaughter had disappeared and my daughter said she saw them go down the escalator. We go down and find them at a jewelry counter. My daughter makes a noise of dismay as she watches them get handed 2 matching bags. My daughter asks if she bought something for her stepsister and my wife says, "No, sweetie, it's just for me." However, a look at her stepsister's face tells my daughter that she's lying and she starts saying, "What did you get? Can I have one, please?" My stepdaughter says it's called a tennis bracelet and I got it because mom and I twin. My wife shushes her and says we should go home now. But my daughter kept repeating, "Can I have one? I want one." She then bursts out into tears. I tell my daughter to come with us, and when she doesn't I am exasperated and say, "Stop, you are acting very spoiled. A lot have less than you." My daughter then stomps after us. When I got home I found out the bracelets cost over $2,000 together and expressed dismay to my wife, reminding her of our no luxury policy for our kids. She says she knows but that it was the happiest she has seen her daughter and she has to go away for business soon and felt guilty. I feel like regardless of my wife's actions, I need to continue to teach my daughter my values. Am I the a-hole? I, male 17, usually pick up my youngest sister, 11, from school because I get out of school midday due to only having 3 classes. Currently, before I go to school, I drop my mom, 40, off at work because her car is getting worked on and my dad leaves for work around 4 a.m. this morning. I had made a pit stop at a gas station just before dropping off my mom. When I went inside of the store, I noticed that they had these little snack packs of peanut butter and pretzels, so I grabbed one for my youngest sister for when I pick her up because peanut butter and pretzels have been her all-time favorite snack since before she could even speak. As I was getting back in the car, my mom noticed the snack and asked why I grabbed it, to which I replied it's for my sister. Without an ounce of hesitation she says, "Uck, why would you get her that? Peanut butter is so fattening, and trust me your sister doesn't need to gain any more weight." Let me just go out and say that my 11-year-old sister is not overweight at all, and even if she was, what mother speaks about her child that way? So being in an angered state, I got sort of sharp at the tongue and said to her, "Well, you could stand to lose a bit of weight yourself." Normally when my mom says things to this extent, her and I will go at it with each other, but I've never said anything sly to her like this. She got absolutely enraged and started yelling at me and telling me that it was disrespectful to say and that I needed to apologize. I didn't apologize because I felt like if she didn't want it said about her, then why say it about your kid? Fast forward to about an hour ago, school lets me out and my dad has blown up my phone telling me that if I don't apologize to my mom then I better have my stuff packed when I get home because my mom called him crying and upset. I admit that I even caught myself off guard by being sly at the mouth, but I don't feel like I need to apologize to her if she can essentially say the same thing about my kid sister.